level-headed, then we want to get them up. We want to take them down. And then we're going to go. This is like the low point of like, I need to take action. This is where they want to be. And we want to make our thing the most efficient path from between those 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Let me change this color. And I want to, let me add some labels here for context again. Current situation. What the heck? How the fuck did I just copy a Zoom link? Have you been chatting with Cam lately?
Yeah. We just went golfing, I think last week.
You think he's, why does that look like shit? You think he's actually moving to Austin?
Yeah, he is actually moving to Austin.
Nice.
Yeah. I was gonna go, but I had one of my buddies. I know I want to. I really want to, but one of my buddies wants to get into real estate up here, and he's got a pretty good connection. So
you could do real estate remote.
I know, but it just makes it a lot easier because I don't have to pay rent right now, and I'll be stacking the bag and be there that much quicker.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do definitely want to. I was about a week later, my buddy texted me. We were looking at apartments and stuff like that. So I was definitely dead set on moving to Austin because I've been there before in my previous job for work, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's sick, dude.
That's a nice little spot.
All right, almost done with this. I just want to get this because then we're going to come in and like we're really going to customize this.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be like not the role play kind of stuff that we did yesterday, but it's going to be a little different, and I think it'll be beneficial. Let's see. Okay. Point B. Okay. So you like at a basic level, like you kind of understand this flow that we're trying to achieve. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to walk you through me being the DM setter, you being the prospect.
Okay.
And I want to walk you through like the reasoning of why I'm saying what I'm saying, and then like the intention behind it, and the direction, like each sentence that I'm going to be saying or each question, I want to associate like a direction with it, whether it's up into the goals or down from the goals to the struggles, or maybe it's just like a question that moves us horizontally, like from where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's go. And we're going to zoom in a good amount here. Let me see 1 second. Let me just make sure I'm good on. Okay. So the first thing you would say is like, I'm gonna have to make this a lot smaller. The first thing you would always say is, and the most common person you're reaching out to is the followers, right?
Yep.
Hey, John, you say, thanks for the follow.
And then I put some emojis that he uses in there.
Thanks for the follow. Are you here for, how do you say this part exactly?
Are you here for the content? Or you just, or no? Here, I'll look.
Are you here for the content or trying to grow your business, right?
Yeah. Are you just here for the content, or are you looking to grow your business?
Are you just fuck, just here for the content, or are you looking to grow your business? Okay. I'm gonna make this actually smaller. Okay. So this question, like we're actually gonna get pretty small here. This question is like the intro. They follow you, and on this graph, this is like the neutral position, right?
Yeah.
Then, okay, and I'm gonna associate an arrow with this as well. It's a big ass arrow. Let's go orange. Why is that shit so big? Jesus, dude, this is being a pain in my ass. Okay, how do I let's see. Okay, so this question, man, like we're not doing anything to make them feel any certain type of way. We are just trying to progress the conversation forwards, right?
Yep.
Now there's going to be another question. Probably they're gonna give you another response, and maybe we like back this up because there's probably a series of like 2 or 3 engagements, interactions that need to happen before we can start asking them about their questions, right?
Yep.
So what is I'm gonna make a hypothetical here. Let's say, hey Nick, appreciate the message, caught your reel on my explore page, thought the concept was interesting. Let me widen this out. Let's make this like red, or not that, red like this. Okay. And then, okay, so this doesn't really like get us anywhere, right? So like we still need to dig 2 or 3 more times. I'm
Yep.
actually gonna move this over. Dig 2 or 3 more times to get this complete. So I remember in the last one, you had repeated it because you thought I missed it.
Yep.
If they say something like this, like, "Hey Nick, appreciate the message, caught your reel on my explore page, thought the concept was interesting." What I would say to direct this back and get this heading in the right direction is, "That's awesome. That's awesome." Depending on what the content is, which let's say like which piece was it? Hopefully, and most of the people that follow you, can you tell that they're like coaches or business owners?
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly who we try to target. We just
Curious how it that's awesome. Which piece was it? Curious how it may play into your X business. Whatever, like your coaching business, your agency, something like this. So let's just do that. Would kind of be custom. And like, dude, don't take this like word for word. I just want to show you like the train of thought. But the way that I see this is like this question, how do I slightly, it is slightly getting us in the right direction. Okay. So like, it's not a just like, this is like a formality. It's like just something that you have to do, or else it's weird to start talking about goals. This one is like giving them the opportunity to slowly start telling us what we want them to tell us. Okay. You can see this is probably going to be a fucking process right here. But hopefully, like by illustrating this concept, you will really be able to dial this in.
Yep.
And it'll be useful for you. Dude, this works on phone setting. This works on closing. This works on everything. So give me one sec here. Let me trying to get my camera set up fixed here. Okay. Hold on, man. I'm trying to get this so I can like see us and all right, whatever. Okay. So that's awesome. Which piece was it? Curious how it may play into X business. They might say something like, what's like a piece of content that they might see from Nick?
Usually people interact with a lot of stuff that gets to the DMs. It's usually from his stories, and usually he's talking about like his most recent one, he was talking about like the fastest way to scale is to be more authentic, kind of thing and die by what you put out there, and not being so much like a scammy person where you're telling people to do this, but you're not actually living it.
Something like this. That's pretty realistic. Let's call it even like 2 messages, right? Now check this out. Like this is pretty realistic so far, right? I would say, okay, so someone said it was the reel where you were talking about the fastest way to scale your online business. So many people do it the wrong way. I would say, yeah, man. Seems like people are starting to catch on that if you want to scale, you actually have to be a real person with a real service. Have you already implemented this approach in your business, or are you about to start? I don't know about that last one. Let me think. But that's what I'm trying to get. I'm trying to like get them. Have you already implemented this approach? Or I would say, how's that approach helped you in your business so far? So this one, we're not like I would say we're still heading in like the same trajectory. It's upward, but it's not like a huge upward, like what's your goal situation, right? But we're still moving the way that we need to move, and we're slowly heading in the direction that we need to head. They say something like, let me see here. Okay. Yeah, it seems like let's say it's helped a ton, TBH. I've had a good amount of referrals since I started paying attention to this some more. So pretty standard response. Let's say they leave it at that. This this is a point in the conversation because they leave it kind of like open-ended where we need to really direct it. And what I'm going to say is like, this is somewhere where we kind of turn it up a little bit. Maybe like that, right? So yeah, man, seems okay. It's helped a ton to BH. I've had a good amount of referrals since I started paying attention to this some more. I would say, I don't know if he speaks like this, but oh yeah, man. Referrals make the game so much easier. Are you shooting for any particular goals with them or your business in general right now? Do you see how that like is a more direct question that like moves us where we want to go, right?
Yep.
Okay. So like the way that I see it, man, is like each one of these movements can realistically be 2 or 3 questions. But there will be people, man, who come in right here and they start right here. Like it's a jump because of the information that they share. Maybe that's an exercise that we could do. I give you some lines and then you tell me like where you envision that in the process, right? But basically right here, like that's our jump up because of the conversation that's happened so far. Like this doesn't feel aggressive, right? It
No.
doesn't feel too assumptive. And I mean, all we had to do was ask, we'll have 1, 2, 3 pieces of back and forth so far.
Yep.
At this point, I would assume pretty chill conversation still. They're not feeling off put by anything. So that's good. Hell yeah, man. Referrals make the game so much easier. Are you shooting for any particular goals? Are you shooting for any particular goals with them or your business? No, this line kind of sucks. The idea is good.
Yeah. Just seems a little unclear.
Any particular referral or business goals you're shooting for right now? See how it's like it's pretty casual too. Depending on the audience, man, like you can get away with like RN right now, or I know he uses some, but you know, obviously put this like in his voice as much as you can. Like I don't know his voice as good as you do, but it seems like he's pretty casual. It seems like he would probably say something like this, right?
Yeah.
Just don't like go overboard with it. Okay, so let's say, hell yeah, man, referrals make the game so much easier. Any particular referral or business goals you're shooting for right now? It's helped a ton, TBH. I've had a good amount. Oh, this is a copy and paste. Actually, yeah, I want to continue to gain at least 3 referrals per month and looking to bring on a salesperson so I can hit some new rev targets without being on calls all day. That's pretty realistic, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to do one more big goal question. So see, like this information is good, but it's not, we don't have too much leverage to drive a call yet. We need,
Yep.
I find this concept of like, if you want to get something that's like actually meaningful, like let's say, can I like change the color of these? Okay. Like let's say this is blue is like a good color. So let me say this is their goals. This is like super sloppy, but you'll get the point of it. struggles. Okay, there's a series of questions. Question 1, question 2, to where you're gonna ask, like we just did. It was like 2 questions that were heading, like it was like 1. Well, not really counting this 1, and then this is gonna be our second big goal question, and then we're gonna get something. Actually, I'm sorry. So this one we like slightly, I'm gonna back it up. We slightly went upwards, right? We slightly started targeting towards the goal, slightly again. So, and then we get something that's like concrete, but we're really going to try to get something concrete here. You get to a point where like, you think you get something. Let's see. And this isn't like set in stone by any means. Maybe I could just illustrate it for the goals. But you get something that feels like it is the goal, but it's usually not. And the way that you can get to that, and this works for both of these, like you could literally go, let's see, delete this, real problems or struggles. I always say struggles, but problems, pain points, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to a point, man, where it's like you ask a couple of questions, you get something good, but if you can dig, like I literally envision like a shovel, like if you can dig a little bit deeper, you are going to get like exponentially better ammunition to use. And that helps with the goal. Like you have to hit that point with the goals and you have to hit that point with the struggles, or else when it comes time to like, you basically need to make them think like, based on what was just shared, I lose more by not having this call than by taking this call, losing 30 minutes, right? And so by getting to the real goal or the real struggle, you're going to be able to have the leverage to book more calls. So getting back here, so we're digging towards this goal. This is, you would say it's a strong goal. Let's take a more like, not wholesome approach, but a more like relatable approach. It's like, okay, yeah, actually I want to continue to gain at least 3 referrals per month and looking to bring on a salesperson so I can hit new rep targets without being on calls a day. That's the dream, man. What do you plan on doing with all the new time and income? Something. Oh, LOL. Definitely a vacation, I'd hope. Actually, let me cut this. And I would tastefully add emojis to this, right?
Yeah.
Definitely a vacation, I'd hope. LOL. Does he say LOL?
Sometimes, yeah. Probably more so with his friends in his chats.
Okay. So, use it sparingly, but I would like, I put the LOL there to kind of like lighten the mood, right? Because I'm low key like, what I'm about to show you with this arrow is like, this is the question that gets us the big goal. So if I direct this, like we're going to the biggest goal, right? Because why is this fucking attached here? Okay. So we're going to the biggest goal. That you see how that makes sense? Like this one is like the surface level goal. Like this is like a clear jab at the goal. This is like in a kind of nonchalant way, because we have this context, like this gives them the opportunity to say, it's my family, it's my mom, like my mom's sick, I need money, like it'll give me time to spend with her. my kids, like I'll be able to afford their college tuition. Like this is the big goal. Okay. So then let's say that's the dream, man. What do you plan on doing with all the new time and income? Definitely vacation, I'd hope. Definitely a vacation for sure. Long overdue. I'd love to start putting away for my daughter's college fund early. Something I never had myself, and I've wanted to make this happen for some time. So like this is like an ideal response, right? You're not always going to get a response that is this helpful, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But what is happening here, and this is what I always talk about, like, dude, there's a reason we do this flow, because what is happening here is this big goal man is actually alluding to his big problem, which is he doesn't have enough money, which makes this a natural transition to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And I like going current goals, struggles in this order, because you can speed up this conversation a lot if you talk about the goals first, because people like to talk about their goals. Without even realizing it, he just gave us a big pain point that we're going to dig a couple of times to get to the real struggle, like the struggle that's going to prompt him to decide to change, right? And this is a lot more elaborate on an actual closing call, but for the sake of booking a call, like, it's sufficient. Like, we don't need to get too deep. Like I said on the last one, if you go too deep, it gets awkward, and then they don't, or they don't respond.
So that cycle could be shortened up on the bottom.
Like this part.
Yeah.
So like this is pretty dense up here. It's not going to be as dense coming along this curve. So basically, responding to this, how would you respond to this? I'm curious.
Oof, well, he already talks about, I was going to ask, like, for sure, man. What do you think? What do you think needs to or like what type of support or help do you think you need to get you to that point?
Yeah. That.
But I still feel like that's pretty direct, where it's a little bit jumping the gun.
Okay.
Where it's like,
let me give you some context. We're gonna go like slight, like how we were going like slight up here. We're gonna go slight up here, and we're gonna kind of like ease into these like very direct questions. Dude, this shit is pissing me off here. Why does that not move? All right, hold on. Let me move this down. Move this arrow. So we're gonna hit, because if you go from like this to like boom straight down, like
straight down. Yeah.
It's just not a natural movement at all.
Would you do a time frame question then to see how long he's been kind of wanting to do that?
Let me think, dude. I'm trying to move this fucking arrow first of all, which is, I don't know why it's not letting me move the arrow. Okay. So a slightly down question. The first thing that you didn't do well, you kind of did, is you said for sure, man, and then you got into it. I would do just a little bit, because right here is a pretty volatile point, man. Like, he kind of gave you some shit that like it's a pivotal point to where you can, like, if they don't feel heard, it's
Mhm.
not going to be good. You're not going to be able to create the same connection. So you need to make sure that when someone gets to this point of this big goal or this big problem, like they need to be heard. And so what I would say is, I would say there's a bunch of different ways we can take this, but with the idea in mind that we are heading towards the problems, he said, I'd love to start putting away for the daughters. Never had myself. Gotta head down to Cabo if you haven't been. So here, this is wait, gotta head down, Jesus Christ, down to Cabo if you haven't been. Just got back myself. 10 out of 10. Now, obviously, don't like lie about this shit, but
Mhm.
what I'm envisioning in my head is, okay, imagine this, like we're going up. We need to have three different, this is a situation where I would send three messages because I'm turning that arrow. I need to have one that addresses the goal. I need to have
Yep.
one that turns us neutral, and I need to have one that brings us towards the problems. Or else if I go from goal to problems, like it's gonna feel sharp. It's not gonna mesh well, right?
Mhm.
So like in my head, like I'm literally thinking like how do I direct this conversation in the direction that I need? And you never want to go from like sharp down to sharp up or vice versa, right? So especially because these are points like, and actually I'm going to add this in here. Maybe I'll turn it, what color would be good? Not that. Oh, I just changed, oh, the line color. Okay. So I'm going to call this a, give me one sec. This is going to be super helpful to refer back to for any setting or closing stuff. I'm going to call this section, and it's pink for a reason. I'm going to call this like a, what's it? Critically sensitive points. Where like you really cannot skip steps. And you could imagine it's going to be there and it's going to be down here. So we'll fill that in as we get there. Okay. So again, because we're making such a sharp turn from up to horizontal to down, this is going to be a series of three messages that I'm going to write. I'm going to do head down to Cabo. I don't know, some bullshit. And then it goes, that's honestly probably one of the most fulfilling things you can do. I respect that a ton. And then how do we get it from, this is like a neutral, like a leveling mechanism, right? But it's a level, it's like a neutral thing, but like we're low-key still hyping them up. It's like I respect you. And honestly, dude, I could maybe even put a series of arrows here, like we're going slight down. Yeah, this is giving me some issues. Slight down, bigger down movement. Like we're gonna dig a little bit, right?
Mhm.
Actually, let's crank it like a slight up. Like that's just like an acknowledgement, and then we're gonna go slight down, and then we're gonna do a big down. Like that. I'm trying to think of like a real life analogy, but like you don't ever want to. There's like certain things in life where like if you don't do the whole process, like it just doesn't make sense, right? Like, I mean, interaction like this is one of them, or like just normal interactions. This arrow is pissing me the fuck off. Okay, cool. Um, I don't know why it's. We're gonna go big downward movement here. Okay. So gotta head down to Cabo if you haven't been. That's honestly probably one of the most fulfilling things you can do. I respect that a ton. Um, okay, so I'm gonna do a series of 2 questions here because I don't want the first one to be too sharp. I'm gonna say, or actually, I might do a question and then a statement. How long have you been? And you said something like this, the time frame, right?
Yep.
How long have you been looking to start this college fund? Um, I was gonna say something like the sooner the better, or like the more time the better, but using that would almost come off like potentially offensive, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to offend him. Like, how long
Yep.
have you been looking to start this college fund? Um, what do you feel has been not okay? There's 2 ways this could go. What has been holding you back, or what has been holding this situation back, or this situation up? So like, I don't want to. I don't really want to put any blame or any guilt or anything on this guy, right? Like,
Mhm.
we might get to that point, but not yet. Like, it's way too early. So, how long have you been looking to start this college fund? What do you feel has been preventing you from that so far? I guess it could be business or personal. And then I would put something in parentheses or just like a side note. Um, if I probably wouldn't get that deep. What it feels been preventing you from that so far. Maybe I would leave it at this. Um, what the fuck is this? Okay. So do you kind of see how that arrow moves? I like this. I think there could be something a little bit better, but just for the sake of like going through this exercise, you get the idea, right? Like, we're turning this arrow around, just like we don't go from like almost flat arrow to cranked up arrow. Like,
Yep.
slowly ease into it. And depending on the person, man, like sometimes the black text will look like this, and then the red text is like 2, 3 times as long. Like, you'll get paragraphs, you'll get essays. You've seen it, I'm sure.
Yep. I just got one yesterday.
Yeah. And then that is like, bro, when I see that, I'm like, dude, I got the whole game of chess laid out in front of me. Like, I have everything I need, right? So, okay. So definitely vacation for sure. Long overdue. I'd love to start putting away with daughter's college fund. Got to head down to Cabo if you haven't been. Just got back myself. 10 out of 10. That's pretty casual. That's honestly probably one of the most fulfilling things you can do. I respect that a ton. How long have you been looking to start this fund? I say this fund to kind of like make it less formal, just more casual. What do you feel has been preventing you from doing so up to this point. Just like minor word changes here. I just want it to flow a little bit better. And then maybe they say, well, my wife and I got married at a pretty young age before either of us were professionally before either of us really found our career professions. Well, my wife and I got married. We dug ourselves out of a financial hole over the last 7 years, and now we finally have some breathing room. Now we finally have some breathing room. So 7 years. Let's say our daughter was born 4 years ago, but this is something we've wanted to do since we first decided we were ready for kids. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Like, this is a pretty realistic response, right? Like, this person, I'm playing a person that like isn't gonna give us any issue responding to questions. I know you've experienced that too, where like people are just short, they don't want to go through this process. No offense, like we can try to help them, but like why not just focus on people that want to be helped, right?
Exactly.
Like I don't want you to say like, oh, this person doesn't want to be helped, like I'm not going to respond to them. Like definitely do your best, but yeah. Anyways, so for this person, and then we're going to probably try to make up some good ground here actually. Because in setting DM appointments, dude, like we're looking at 3-4 questions this way, 3-4, maybe 5 questions down. And then the booking part happens. I mean, this whole thing is just like, there's not really much that goes on here besides maybe 2 or 3 booking questions. And this is the sales call where their end goals get achieved. So, let's see here, copy and paste this. Got it. Okay. So if they say this, let me give an arrow. Let me just hold the text there. Okay. So my wife and I got married at a pretty young age before either of us really found our career professions. A financial hole. We dug ourselves out of a financial hole over the last 7 years. Now we finally have some breathing room. Our daughter was born 4 years ago, but this is something. Okay. Okay. So now I have an idea of where I would take this. Obviously, we're going to head in a direction. I'm thinking we're going to probably go the same downward trajectory. Because right now this is leaning on the side of personal, right? But personal and business do overlap. I want to ask a question that sets us up for a big downward question that relates to the business, because that's what we're here to help with. We can't help with the personal shit. I mean, maybe we can, I don't know. But keeping in mind like the trajectory that we want to hit here.
So is that first arrow, is that kind of like a slight dig at their struggles, and then that next one is kind of really honing in on the actual business?
I want to turn it in the direction of the business in this question. And then because I don't want to, okay, so like imagine this arrow wasn't here and we made it about the business and this shark right away. If he said something like this, and then I said, I assume like, oh, you probably don't have enough leads. It's like there's like a fucking break, right?
Mhm.
And so I want to turn this into the business, and then they get a response, and then I lean into that response to like really hit the big pain point. Because going back to this, right now, this response is probably this.
Yeah.
Like you could get this and be like, this is his why. I mean, honestly, this is his why, but we need to like back it up with some logic, right?
Yeah.
And we need to tie it back to the business because that's what we help with. Obviously, this doesn't happen without the business, so we're creating like the full picture. Well, okay, so my wife and I got married at a pretty young age. We dug ourselves out of a financial hole. Our daughter was born 4 years ago. It's something we wanted to do. Okay, cool. So based on your profile, it looks like you're pretty deep into this. Most of the people that come are coaching.
Yeah.
Okay. So you notice how up here I said like acknowledge, you want to acknowledge this kind of stuff. There's once you do it, like I think there was two other points where we acknowledge.
Yeah.
People like if you keep acknowledge, neutralize, point the next question in the direction, like they'll pick up on that pattern. And so this is just keeping it fresh. Like if you did this off the start and ignored like the first big thing that they tell you or whatever,
Yeah.
it seemed like
You
an
probably,
asshole.
you probably wouldn't have got all that information.
But now it's like he knows, like we've already had, I don't know, 10 pieces of back and forth. Like there's a little bit of rapport established to where I don't need to hype them up as much. And usually it is about midway through this conversation where you can start being a little bit more direct, and not direct in like a super positive or negative way, but just being more straightforward. Okay. So let's say wife and I got married pretty young age, dug ourselves out of a hole, daughter was born. Okay. And I don't know, you could like acknowledge this, but it's not going to kill you. But like, just make sure you're not using the same talk tracks every time, because if you see, like so far, acknowledge, question, acknowledge, neutralize, question, right? So you don't want to, I mean, that's why I usually have two or three. Look, acknowledge, neutralize, or acknowledge, question, neutralize. So like I'm kind of switching it up so we don't have the same exact like flow. So he's not like, this is a fucking robot that I'm talking to, right?
Yeah.
So you mess around with that. But okay. I would all that definitely makes sense. Just like a quick, not like hyping them up too much. And then based on your profile, it looks like you're pretty deep into this coaching stuff. I'd assume the college fund will be funded quicker the better your business does. Yeah? Question mark. All that definitely makes sense. Based on your profile, it looks like you're pretty deep into this coaching stuff. I assume the college fund gets funded quicker, faster, the better your business does. Yeah. Or is there other, or I'm basically trying to give him the option to tell me that his coaching business isn't the main thing that they do, or isn't the main revenue generator, because if it is the main revenue generator, it's just like that much more accountability as a man. Like I need to do this, right?
Mhm.
Deep into the coach, I'd assume the college playing is fun. Is one of the biggest contributors to your daughter's fund. I'd assume the college. Oh, I'd assume it's one of, if not the biggest contributor. So that's what I'm trying to get here. Like, and also cranking this down in direction a little bit more and turning it back into the business. I'm almost like pre-handling the objection that this isn't important to him. And this is like, dude, it's like really hard to conceptualize this stuff. And like I could make so many fucking arrows and all this stuff to like break down this concept of like why I'm asking all that, and this arrow is pissing me off. But actually the way that this question goes, there's going to be another question, because this isn't the big problem. So let me fast forward here. Because I can't, like I said, just like you can't turn the arrows super aggressively, you can't change the subject super aggressively. So this is my foot in the door to talk about his business.
Mhm.
The next question that I want to put in here, and I'm going to put this first because I already have it in mind. It's going to be like the big business problem question. Okay, so let's get him to talk about the business. Then we're going to hit him with the big, similar to how we hit the big goal question. We're going for this one. So all that definitely makes sense. Based on your profile, it looks like pretty deep into this coaching stuff. I'd even period. I'd assume it's one of, and you could break that off. I'd assume it's one of, if not the biggest contributor to the fund. You see, like I noticed in your interaction that I like reviewed, like generally look at how long these responses are.
Yeah.
Some of them are short, but most of them are gonna have like a little bit more than one or two lines, right? Because we're changing the direction of the conversation. We're changing the topic of the what's it called? The conversation. So I want to take note of that. 2 changes being made at all times. 1, direction. 2, topic. And so in this case, like this could be a series of 2 arrows, right? The direction, like so far, these yellow arrows are the direction.
Yep.
The topic, it would maybe not be an arrow. I don't know how we would symbolize that, but this is something to take note of. Like if you're giving a response that does not get us further on, okay, are you familiar with the Jordan Belfort stuff? Like not Wolf of Wall Street, but like his sales training stuff, any of it?
A little bit. Yeah, I've watched some videos on it.
So he has the straight line concept, right? And he's like, at any given time, you want to keep them on the straight line. You don't want them to go out to Pluto or Uranus or whatever. Like you need to keep them on this line. Well, if you keep them, it's almost impossible to keep like a straight line. So that's why we have this natural curve. It's like a natural conversation. But at any given time, your response to the previous message needs to be either directionally heading along this curve or changing to the topic that lets us further progress on this curve. Because when we did the role play yesterday, there were times where I felt you got close to this big goal, you got close to this struggle, but you didn't crank the direction up and ask the big question.
Yeah.
Or you would ask a big question, and this is like, I don't have that pulled up in front of me, but you would ask the big question, and then you would ask like a more chill question, still heading in that direction after. So dude, this is something that takes a lot of practice and just reps. And it's very hard. Like, I don't expect you to go and set appointments today and then you're like, oh yeah, I did it perfect every time. But just visualizing these arrows in your head and then knowing that like 3 to 4 engagements up to here, 3 to 4, maybe 3 to 5 up to here, 3 to 5 down to here, and then maybe 2 to 3 to get them to book. Right. And maybe that's something I can add to. Can I do actually, how do I do it? Just a normal line. Okay. So we're going to go 3 to 5 engagements. Shoot. There's going to be a lot of stuff on here. 3 to 5 engagements. 3 to 5 engagements. Let me put this down. And then this might be 2 to 3. It might be more. We'll see. Mm-hmm. There will be some, like, based on what you get, where this is going to have to be 7 engagements, right? When I say engagement, I mean like messages total from both sides. And then let me connection line. I should have probably done this. Differently type. Let's go dotted. Gray. Yeah, that's super fucking crooked. Anyways, I'm trying to like line this up basically.
No, I gotcha.
I think it makes sense. And then the goals, and then the struggles, and then this. Oh, I didn't know I could move all this. That's pretty sick.
It's better than the arrows.
Yeah. Okay. This one is still crooked as fuck. All right, there we go. So now, and if you come in here, like, you can see the natural progression up, and then we're slowly going down. Under here, I would just like memorize those patterns. So it's like we're going neutral to up, and then up to down. So this one actually might take longer because we're having to turn it around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then usually, dude, once you get down here and you get the big struggle answer, you can turn it around a little bit faster because you're not diving into another sensitive topic, right? So it's just in these critically sensitive points, like you need to slow down and like slowly take the angle, right? And you can kind of see how that's illustrated here. All right, so now getting back to this. Well, my wife and I got married at a pretty young age before either of us really found our career professions. We dug ourselves out of a financial hole over the last 7 years, and now we finally have some breathing room. Our daughter was born. Oh, this is a fucking copy of this one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your profile, it looks like you're pretty deep into this coaching stuff. I'd assume it's biggest contributors of the fund. Yeah, man. I went all in with it in 2018, let's say 2021 during COVID. Engineering job became miserable, and I decided to, and I was presented with an opportunity to match or beat my income while spending more time with the family. No brainer, to be honest. Okay, so this one, basically what I wanted, even though this response isn't talking about the business, I wanted to confirm that the business is the biggest contributor. And then that kind of, again, gets us directionally in the topic direction of talking about the business. So now, if I'm thinking about the big business question, actually, we might add a softer question after this. Let's see how it lines up. But like, based on what he said, going all the way back here, we started talking about authentic content. We said it was helping him. He wants to increase the referrals. His goal is to get off sales calls, make more money, and continue to get referrals. How would you approach this big downward question?
I mean, I guess I would tie back in the fact that the original conversation started with him saying he liked the fact in order to scale, get more clients, is to be more authentic. So a question along that line of, I feel like a lot of my questions are the exact same every single time, where it's like what do you think is gonna? Nah, it's just a bad question. So, are you acknowledging that with a statement first and then asking a question?
Maybe something like this, not something really hyping them up, but maybe like this guy said, yeah, man, like it could be something like that. I'm not really focused on the acknowledgement because we've already kind of shown them that we're not an asshole. And so now, like, as long as if you don't do it, like as long as it's tasteful, then it's just like when you don't do the acknowledgement and you change the direction of the conversation, that is when you come off as like an asshole. So if we're slowly easing down, which we're already kind of heading that way, like it shouldn't be too weird if you don't do it.
So then I'd probably just ask, what do you think? What do you think needs to change in how you present your information to get you to that point of making more money to fund your daughter's college fund?
Yeah, that's pretty spot on. Like, pretty direct. And because of the context, like, it doesn't feel too personal. It doesn't feel forced because we've naturally made the conversation come to this point. The only thing that I would add, and I would almost add it in the beginning, is besides getting the new salesperson in, what do you feel like your business needs? Because I'm trying to seek out if there's, I know that's a pain point for them. We already know it's a pain point.
Mhm.
But we want to seek out to see if there's anything else, because the more stuff there is, the more leverage we have.
Yeah.
And Nick's offer again, dude, I know it's kind of obscure, but like if you had to do like the elevator pitch, like what exactly is he doing with these people?
He's making them into leaders that provide a service that is not about profits. It's more so about providing a good service to the people that they serve. That whole spiritual capitalism where it's instead of profit focused and providing the best service for the market, it's people focused and providing the best service for that person.
Amen. Okay. So I might add an acknowledgement question here, because with that in mind, like he's kind of exuding those organically, he's showing like I want to be a leader, I want to provide all this stuff. So I want to, maybe I'll throw in an acknowledgement thing that like labels him as that guy, so that way down the road, like if he starts doing things that that guy wouldn't do, you can kind of say like, hey, you know, would a leader, or like would this person do this or not do this or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went all in 2021 an opportunity to get time back and provide at a higher level. Hard to pass. And I'm probably gonna do a series of 2 or 3 messages here. Hard to pass up. Um, besides getting a sales guy in and keeping referrals, actually maybe it's just 2 here. Consistent. Besides getting a sales guy in and keeping referrals consistent, what do you feel has truly been holding you back? Uh, so I like how you tied in you tied it back to the college fund, but for the sake of like almost like a more natural conversation, I would probably not say that, because it's, I mean, we literally just talked about it in this one.
Yeah.
I like the idea, and like the idea is correct, but for the sake of not writing a freaking essay, I think we're still able to crank this arrow down without being awkward, without bringing that up. So an opportunity to get time back and provide at a higher level, hard to pass up for sure. Besides getting a sales guy in and keeping referrals consistent, what do you feel? What actually, no. What else, if anything, do you feel like your business needs so that you can make the contributions? What else do you feel like your business needs now so that you can make the contributions, you and your wife, bring the wife into it, make it a little more personal. You and your wife would like sooner rather than later. So this is like a very like thought out response, right? So we stick, I mean, we acknowledge briefly, we stick the label, or actually we didn't even do the label of like him being like a leader or whatever. But we tied back to the conversation. And that's the thing, dude. When you get into these, you get towards these sensitive points, you have to ask questions with context. Because if you don't, like, if I just said, actually, and this is a good point, you basically kind of said something along the lines of this, which the idea is good, but if you don't soften it with context, almost feel like this guy put me on the spot, right? So we put context here and we put context here. And so we kind of like packed this very direct question. What else do you feel your business needs now, with the context that he gave us? Which is very like strategic. And it's interesting because on DM conversations, you have the time to respond and you can think through this. But anyways, oops, because we're getting to this more sensitive point, I'm going to start adding just a little bit more arrows. That's not what I wanted. I don't know why this is like, gives me issues here. This is like the big question, I would say. So if I come around here, maybe we, because we also don't need to fill this. Like I said, it's like 3 to 5 engagements. We're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or I said 3 to 7. So we're pretty much right there. Let's go like this. Critically sensitive points. Okay. Is this like making sense so far? The flow?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
I know not to throw you off subject, but I know a lot of the times when just looking at Nick's responses and stuff, this chart's almost flipped where it's struggles first, then goals, and then book. Where
Yeah.
he's asking, what's your biggest block in your business? They say their thing, acknowledge it, and then he goes like, what's monthly income? What's the vision for the business? Like, where do you want to go? And then he goes in like, how can we help you? And then book the call and stuff like that. So, I mean, I definitely like this a little bit better just because it doesn't feel like I'm coming off super salesy, kind of pushing them. But that's also, I think, the reason why he can close or book a call, then close somebody in such a short amount of time. And because he's also been doing it for a while, so he understands kind of the psychology behind that stuff. So
yeah. Well, to be honest with you, man, like this conversation can go both ways. It can go down and then up. The only issue that, or not issue, but the only reason I like to do this upwards to goals to struggles is, one, it's easier to get someone to elaborate on this first.
Yep.
And two, the separation from this point in the conversation to this point seems a lot larger. And these goals are, you know, they're going to remember what they told you. So they kind of transfer over. And it's like, wow, this is like a big gap. Whereas if you go down first and then you go up into the goals, when you ask for the booking, when you ask for the sale, there's like less ground to be covered, and they're already in like this good mental state where they almost get this false sense of achievement to where they're less inclined. Now you want to be careful down here not to make someone feel like shit and like discourage them that this is even possible. But this is why I do this. Now, if you need to, man, if you need to flip this around, the thing is, like, this whole process, like, it'll take longer than the super direct approach that Nick is suggesting. So if you're in a position where it's like, dude, I need to get some bookings faster, like, just try to shorten it up. But the main thing you need to realize is like how to soften these questions as you come around these key points, whether you go to the struggles first or the goals, and then how to just continuously make sure you're heading in the right direction in the conversation.
Mhm.
So there's that. But getting into this, I would say right here is you're probably going to get the biggest leverage response right here. And then we're going to slowly start to turn this up. We're going to start to turn. We're probably going to have, I'm already envisioning a more neutral, actually, I'm envisioning two arrows here, more downward and then more neutral. And I'm gonna have to change the way that this is written. But basically, okay. So yeah, man, I went all in 2021 during COVID. Engineering job became miserable. I was presented with an opportunity to match or beat my income while spending time with the family. An opportunity to get time back, maybe even say, and like make it, I don't know, more conversational. Hard to pass up. No doubts there. Besides getting a sales guy and keeping referrals consistent, what else, if anything, do you feel like your business needs now so you can make the contributions you and your wife would like sooner than later? So the only logical response for him is the answer to that middle question right there, which is like, to be honest, man, and everyone's issues might be different, but to be honest, Nick, I have a small team in place, and this is, I think it's going to be a pretty ideal situation for you. And I'm going to try to make it that versus like some problem that you can't help with. But to be honest, Nick, I have a small team in place, and they're solid now, but I feel like performance all around could be better if I was able to serve them better. I'm so busy with content and other front end stuff in the business plus family that it's just limiting how much I can pour back into my team. That's a pretty ideal response, right?
Yeah.
And I'm making it like that for the sake of the example. It's not always going to be like that, obviously. Okay. To be honest, Nick, I have a small team in place and they're solid now, but I feel like performance all around could be better if I was able to serve them better. Okay, so now, don't know why that's happening. Oh, I know why this is happening. Send to back. No. To send this to the back. All right, dude, I don't know what the fuck's happening with this actually. Okay, so the response here, and I'm gonna like start to flip around the way these paragraphs go to like flow with the direction. To be honest, Nick, I have a small team in place. They're solid now, but I feel like if performance was better, be able to serve better. I'm so busy with content and other front end stuff. I'd be like, John, what you said is something that I've heard more times than I can remember. No, that's actually, it's a little dismissive.
Mhm.
John, that's the exact realization I came. How long has Nick been running this?
I think he just started this business pretty recently. I think it was like 2022, 2023, 2020. I don't know. I can't remember. Some of his messages go back for a while. But that's probably from when he was coaching and all that stuff.
Yeah. So the way that I'm like, instead of like acknowledging here, I'm gonna like, I need to create relatability, because this solution to this guy in his mind is like, it's very unique because there are a lot of things stemming out of it. But in reality, it's not that unique because this is literally what we see every day. So either I'm going to relate to him, or I'm going to bring up somebody else that has gone through the program that went through the same exact thing. Like if this dude was a coach and he taught people how to produce music and post on Spotify and grow and start getting gigs and start selling shit like their music, then if I had a client like that, I would bring that up, right?
Mhm.
So for the sake of this example, we're just going to say it's Nick. John, that's the exact realization I came to myself in 2022. I'm going to say business, what had been pretty stagnant for months prior, yet I was on the verge of burnout. Yet I was on the verge of serious burnout. As you may be able to tell from my content. Oh, actually, so this would be one, it's going to be like a 2 or 3 step message, but for the sake of this like graph, I'm going to break these up. So this arrow is the sharp one. So let's like slowly turn it back around, level with them a little bit. Okay, John, that's the exact realization I came to myself in 2022. Business had been pretty stagnant for months prior, yet I was on the verge of serious burnout. I knew something had to change. I mean, not only for the sake of the business, but so I could meet my personal goals as well. Now, there's 2 ways that you could take this at this point. And what we're doing here, okay, so we level with him, we make him feel heard, we make him feel understood. Because in these points of critically sensitive, let me zoom back in. Need to be heard, need to be understood. Those are the main things, and that's why we slow down on those. That's why the messages in those areas get longer. Just want to extend this out. Dude, hold on. I got some weird formatting shit going on here. And we're actually really close to booking the call. So like I said, that turnaround after the struggles is, you don't need to beat around the bush as much. Just need to format this correctly. Okay. So that's why usually in these points, we're going to have like sequences of 2 for sure, if not 3 messages. So that's the exact realization I came to myself in 2022. Business had been pretty stagnant. I knew something had to change. I mean, not only for the sake of business, but so I could meet my personal goals as well outside of that. So you could either, this is going to delay the conversation. You could either just let him respond, or you can start to like really make this head in the direction that you want it to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll actually make this like a neutral arrow. And for the sake of like shortening this, I'm going to drive the conversation a little bit more. So then I'll say, I knew something had to change. I mean, not only for the sake of the business, so I can meet my personal goals as well outside of that. And I like to, in the role play that we did, or I think I took notes, but if you want to kind of cut to the chase of getting the call booked without seeming like you're forcing a call on them, there were those 3 lines that I gave you, and I kind of just brainstorm. It's not like a holy trinity that I live and die by, but it's like softening the ask. It's like not to be so upfront, or not to be so forward. Yeah. But I wouldn't even mention the call. I would say, because we don't want to jump from this topic to a call in one sequence here, right? What we want to do is we want to jump potentially to the idea. So 2 paths. You either let them respond here, which is going to delay it out longer, give them an opportunity to give you more ammunition, or drive to the idea of fixing the solution. So what I would do here is I would say, I knew something had to change, not only for the sake of the business, but so I could meet my personal goals as well outside of that. And I would say, so is Nick married? I don't think he is, right?
No.
Okay. If he were, I would say wife, just to be relatable with what this guy was saying. Or kids, if he had kids. I don't think he does. Where's my text box? Let's see. It took a while. Oh, dude, this is beautiful right here. It took a while to get the pieces together for me personally. So showing like, dude, this is a lot of work, but I'd be happy to share with you what worked for me if that's worth anything to you. So we basically turn this conversation in the direction that we wanted. Not a super sharp, we're not like saying book a sales call. We're saying, this arrow is fucked up again. It's not what I wanted. But we're like opening them up to the idea. Dude, this shit is pissing me off. Hold on, dude. Sorry. Technical difficulties here.
No worries.
I got to get this.
It's being forward without being forward.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just like driving the conversation without being too, like, you're being just the right amount. But this is fucking crazy. You're being, oh, there we go. Just the right amount assumptive to drive the conversation, to be seen as a leader, but not to be an asshole, not to feel like they're not understood, not to feel like you don't hear them, not to feel like you're brushing them off. So that's why, like, in most of these, man, you see the 2, the 2, the 2, the 3, 3, 2, 3. Because one, it's kind of conversational, but you're able to cover more ground faster by adding the context. Because again, if you get this and then you just hit them with this question, like, it could be taken the wrong way, right? It could be like, damn, you just started talking about yourself and asked me if you wanted to help. Like, I don't even know if you truly understand me, you know? So like, yeah, dude, this like, I've always had this concept illustrated, but I've never like gone in depth, and like I'm starting to realize like how this is actually flows by doing this, which is awesome. But it just makes a lot more sense, man. Like you just want to slow down in these areas when you're trying to turn the conversation where they need to be heard, they need to be understood. And yeah, so after this, like this conversation right here, like it's a very neutral, respectful conversation. We haven't pitched anything. We haven't made too many assumptions. I would say this guy, if anything, he likes Nick at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's craft a response, and then I think after this response, we'll be able to, we can push for the call. Let's go. Okay. Okay. So John, this exact realization I came to myself. Okay. So really, I knew to some extent that others faced this, but to be honest, what you said about the business being stagnant and you being on the edge of burnout is actually where I feel like I've been. And so, dude, that's another thing when you kind of like offer up information like this, you will have people that say, like, they didn't say it before, but like you said how they feel, which is just more alignment, more reason to keep driving. So really, I knew to some extent that others face this, but to be honest, what you said about the business being stagnant and you being on the edge of burnout is actually where I feel like I've been. I'd actually really appreciate hearing about what worked for you. And so there's gonna be cases, like I said, man, where like this part need to be heard. I'm gonna add another one in here. Need to be related to. So that's awesome. Need to be related to. And in this part, there's two people that you can relate them to. It's either Nick or it's the clients. The thing that I don't like, especially here relating to the clients, is it immediately is like, this guy's talking about clients. He reached out to me. There's like some innate pressure that is introduced there. If anything, if I would introduce that pressure, quote unquote, down here, only if it is that unique situation where the relatability does more in like trust and proof than it does sales pressure. So if that's like that super niche DJ dude that had this unique problem and we already solved that problem, I would use it. If he were a fitness coach and I'm talking like, I don't know, I don't have a fitness coach, like I wouldn't use it. I would just say me, like I had this problem. So need to be related to. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is a pretty realistic response right here. I'd actually really appreciate hearing about what worked for you. And then this is about the last point. We're going to shoot for the big
booking.
Yep.
Book.
And in this one, dude, like this is a cookie cutter example of the process, but you will get objections. You will get people that don't open up. You will get people that ask you questions, and you just have to, like, if someone asks you a question, that's just they ask you a question that could derail this. Like that's just another 3-step or 2-step sequence in turning the arrow back in the direction that you need it to go. But you don't want to ignore them. You don't want to disregard them, right? Like they need to be heard. Even if you have a good next question and like you get through the conversation, they're going to remember where you were like a little bit cold about the question they asked. So you always want to address them. And if you need to, just like keep it really short. But
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, man, you're definitely not alone there. I've heard this story quite a few times before. So comforting him, like, we're familiar. And then you already said me, and now we're saying I've actually heard it a few times before, just more comfort. He said, I'd actually really appreciate hearing about what worked for you. Say, how do you usually book? Do you book them into like a Calendly or something, like once you get the time?
I send them a link and then I just say, like fill this form out. It's going to give you time to book. It should take 2 minutes. Let me know when you're booked, just so I know I get confirmation in there.
So I like to sometimes sending the link in itself can be like a pretty abrasive thing. Like it can be a little forceful. For the sake of simplicity here. So I'm giving them a reason as to why I'm just sending the link, because it could be, again, it could be brush people the wrong way. Sometimes people take that as like, oh, your time is more valuable than mine. It's like a weird dynamic. But for the sake of simplicity here, here, yeah, man, you're definitely not alone. I've heard this story quite a few times before. Sake of simplicity. Actually, anything work here for you? Figured it's just easiest to send this over. And then we'll go link. Actually, check this out. You know how on Instagram when you could send like 2 or 3 messages, I don't want the preview of the message to be a link. So I'm gonna like sandwich it. I'm gonna say anything work here for you. Figured it's just easiest to send this over. Or I'd say for the sake of simplicity, figured I'd just send this over. And then they say, ideally, they find something that works.
Mm.
That's good to hear. I just in the form, does it have like qualifying questions at all?
Yeah, so it's a type form that basically it's qualifying them further. It's for the closer, so they know what they're getting into. So it's basically what their struggles are, where that's stuff like that. So it's like I've never actually went into it, but I know what the actual type form says. So like the first thing is obviously name, number, email, stuff like that, and then after you get through that, the booking form for Riley, the closer.
Does it ask them like anything about money, anything about credit, anything there?
I honestly have no idea because I haven't even gone into it, but I'm assuming that it does ask, um, like what's your monthly income, because then from there the closer puts them in that different bracket of category where it's like the free community, Alchemist Academy, and then the mastermind, and
Okay.
then from there they pitch them the call.
That's an easy way around it. I just don't want you to like have this organic conversation and then it like drops a freaking, hey, by the way, this thing is $6,000 in the booking form, and it's like, whoa, like I thought we were just gonna talk, right?
Yeah, that's kind of where, I mean, it's definitely a good approach right there, but I mean, obviously, if you're talking to a coach, I mean, they should have some sort of idea of what they're going to be.
Yeah.
Spend a little bit of coin.
Is
But
it a closer or it's Nick?
So the ones that I send and get booked, those go straight to the closer, and then the ones that Nick does, he just calls them straight up.
Okay, so this is gonna have to change based on who
Yeah.
you talk to, right? And just say my partner Riley is his name.
Yep.
Cool. So obviously that changes. Like just hype Riley up. Be like, yeah, Riley, we go way back. He had the same problem. He's seen this. He knows this. But yeah, this is the blueprint, dude. How long has this been? Almost 2 hours. I think that's enough time.
Dude, I didn't even realize it was that time.
The only thing that I would tell you now that is specific to your situation based on all this that we did, again, the concept that you need to take away is every question, like literally every line needs to be intentional in some way, whether it's changing the direction or the topic. And I think you can get away with after having the role play with you and after going through this and seeing the past conversations, I think what you need to do is you need to add a little bit more context, and then you need to slow down a little bit more around these critical points.
Yeah.
Because especially down here, man, if you can, it makes it so much easier to get around this curve and redirect the conversation if you can literally pull their words from over here. Because like I'm not making this up. Like you literally just told me this shit. Right.
Yeah.
And then this one always tends to be a natural curve. Remember how I said like, this is a big goal, but it's alluding to his problem. This one is a little bit more like people will keep going down if you don't turn them around. So like that's why you notice front end of this curve, it's light, it's 2, it's 3, but then turning this curve, it gets pretty heavy. Turning this curve, it gets pretty heavy because we're adding context. Making sure that this doesn't feel forced, doesn't feel too fast, doesn't feel like they're not heard. Dude, this is the freaking blueprint right here. Like this shit will make you a millionaire. I swear to God.
I like it. Well, I mean, what would you say? Because I've had times where it's like I'm breaking down this guy's problems. He's realizing it. Then when I do try to go back up to be like, hey, do you want, like, I've had problems with, or I've seen clients that also had this problem. Would you want help with this? And they're like, oh, no, man, like you made me realize this problem, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I'll just try to fix it myself. This one guy told me, he was like, I got to stop falling for every coach that I run into because of shiny object syndrome. But it's like, at what point do you stop them from telling you all their problems and making them realize those problems and trying to fix them themselves, then trying to go up? Because this guy clearly has a problem that he's been struggling with for some time, because this conversation goes back before I even started. Yeah. So I just reiterated that and said, hey, man, like, just wanted to check in, like, boom, like, were you having those problems? And he adds like 6 more. And then I asked him, do you want help? And he just said, no. And I was like,
I think there's a difference between help and a conversation. And I think that point is kind of going back to what we talked about. It's like, when does the call become like, when do they lose more by not taking the call than by taking the call? And so like there has to be like through this whole, actually through, I'd say from here on, there needs to be a level of intrigue. Like I said, hey, it took me a while to get the pieces together personally, but I'd be happy to share what worked for me, if that's worth anything to you. It's like, oh, I wonder what worked for him. Like, because I'm not going to tell you that shit in the DMs. Maybe I'll tell you a little, but I'm not going to give you everything. It's like, so again, on this, you would change it to the closer, right? Or like my partner Riley, like actually really helped me get through this, right? Or make it custom to that. But yeah, so that's what, like, when the call, and you don't want to that's the thing, man. In every step of any marketing and sales funnel ever, let's say they click on an ad, right? The ad itself is selling you to click on the button. When you click on the button, the landing page is selling you to submit your information. Then you get the VSL, you get the video, right? The free training. The training is selling you to book the call. It's not like the ad is selling you on the service. The landing page is not selling you on the service. The VSL training is not selling you on the service. It sounds like what you were potentially doing is you need to be selling the call, which is what we did here, right? It's like, are you interested in hearing more, having a conversation? Let's connect. I'm not talking about selling them on the service. Now you can do that in the DMs. It's possible. It's usually a more lengthy process, and it's going to be hard, I think, with this offer, and that's not what you're hired to do. But you need to, maybe the goal here changes to, I'm trying to envision, because like booked call is the end goal. I would like put it on this bullet point here, but the booked call happens en route to end goal achieved, you know? So that, maybe focus on that, man. Like, not so much the service. And that's why I don't like dropping the clients up here, like saying my clients or my students or my program. The only time I'll do it down here is when it gives me the relatability to drive this forward better.
Okay.
Right? Because also a lot of the guys that come into this, because they're coaches, because they do this themselves, they are going to know what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not going to go along with it, because you probably can't help them, but still, like, don't think they're naive to this idea. So that's basically it, man.
Yeah, that helps. That helps.